Good evening, everyone. It's gone 8:30. Let's get underway. Don't forget the disclaimer. We're not recommending that anyone take any advice, any action, any decisions, whatever, based on what we see tonight. It's all for education, maybe entertainment. So they're the intro slides. Welcome, everyone. What I'll do quickly is share with you the minute notes that I took from last month's meeting, just as a summary of what we did in case you missed it. And this document is available. It's in the, I think I put it into the BullCharts User Group Google Drive. So those of you who have access to the drive, it's in there. For anyone who doesn't have access, simply email me, request access, and specify the email address you want to use to unlock the access, and I can arrange that fairly quickly. Last night, I did a presentation discussion, and it was all about analysing and annotating price charts, using a lot of the features of BullCharts to record your own analysis and trading notes, showing the options of how to do it with IntelliCharts and without, by saving the price chart as a separate chart file rather than use IntelliCharts. And I started off the session by showing a few different templates that I use a few times a week, especially on Friday night, Saturday morning. And those templates demonstrated why I turn off IntelliCharts and save my chart files to the hard drive as individual files. And there's an example one there in that minutes document. It's got text on it, it's got horizontal lines, it's got a shaded rectangle, got different types of text with borders on the text boxes, with shading, and a few things there. Going on in the minutes there's a few snippets of useful notes. Some notes there about some of the key things that I mentioned in the session. The other thing that I did was I did record that session. It went for about an hour in total, 40 minutes of presentation and 20 minutes of Q&A, where we talked about a number of key features of BullCharts, including volume and colouring volume bars. And that did confuse us on the night. I since had a look and worked out exactly what was going on there. I recorded all of that session. As of yesterday, it's now up on YouTube. I need to put a link to it from a couple of places. If anyone knows where to find the BullCharts YouTube videos, it's in that collection. I'm going to post a cut down version of that with a couple of subject names as well to help explain things like volume. A number of bullet points in there about the key things that we touched on. And that video, as I said, the presentation itself, the demonstration of BullCharts, turning IntelliCharts off and saving the price chart as a chart file, that runs for the first 40 minutes of the 60-minute video on YouTube. I will have the link for that in the minutes for tonight's meeting. I'll share that. That was about all we covered last month. So the agenda for tonight, what I've done at the last minute is I've revised the agenda. I've inserted the word revised near the top, and I've had these highlighted bits to show what's changed. The plan for tonight was to talk about favourite indicators, and that might be momentum, moving average of momentum, smooth momentum, RSI, MACD. And David Woodside emailed me yesterday and said, how about we have a look at Disparity Index as well? So I said, sure, great. Let's have a look at something a lot of us haven't heard about. So David's going to show us that shortly. For tonight's session, it's very much unstructured. The plan was to talk about some of these indicators because I think they're popular. Here's my BullCharts now. What we might do, David, if you're ready, we might kick off with your discussion about the Disparity Index. Should we do that?
All right. Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Robert. Yep. Look, I sort of I watch the American indices, the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and I don't know whether anyone's looking at the moment, but particularly the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones and the S&P are pretty extended away from what I call the long-term average or mean. And I sort of got to thinking about, well, how do you assess the risk or something like that? And I sort of found on the internet a thing called a Disparity Index, and I happened to look through the bull charts, and lo and behold, they have one. It's just called Disparity Index, and Robert's loaded it up here. And basically, what I do is I set it up as a that's it. That's it. They've set it for 13. I set it at 50 because well, that's what I use. I use a weekly chart, and that approximates to a 200-day moving average. It probably doesn't actually probably go to 40, but I just use 50. So if you just change it to
Well,
that's
David,
the 50.
what I've just done is
Yeah,
dark blue, the heavy one, is your original 50.
righto.
And I've just added on to that the same indicator, but with the default value of 13.
Righto. All right.
Now,
I also
go on.
I also set it up as an oscillator. When you go into the line and you can change the setting to plus or minus. You go to your style, go to style down to the line, style on your right hand edge. Yeah, click on that. Click on the style and see how you got. That's what I'm looking for. Then you make it nice and thick. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So, and so basically, I found that if you looked at Galaxy, which is the stock that we're looking at the moment, and if you click on one of those bars, you'll see that the present price is. This is on a weekly chart, is it, Robert?
It is, yes.
Right. That's what I tend to use. You'll see that this expresses the percentage away from the 50-period moving average. Can we slip a 50-period moving average on the candlesticks, please, Robert?
Yep. What sort of moving average?
Just a EMA or FIT, doesn't matter.
On the price.
Yeah, on the price. Yep.
There we go.
So you can see. I find it useful to assess when a stock's been in a long term downtrend like Galaxy and started to move. You can see that about August it started to poke its head above the zero line. And I mean, all right, an EMA tells you the same thing, but to me, there's been a long period from 2008, September to August 2018, right through to almost 2 years, where it's really been on a downtrend. You don't want to own it. But now, all of a sudden, lithium's the flavour of the month, and to me, when it started to poke its head up there in August, it was a buy, which I did, and yeah, I took some profit off yesterday, but that's me. So I find it useful, and I think people have to play with it. But all it does is measure the percentage of the price from the moving average that you select. In my case, I've selected 50. So if you looked up at the price chart, you can see that that moving average is and you can go and put the percent on it, and it just simply works out the percentage from the price to the 50p, and where you've got your arrow now, Robert, is zero as it shows on the. To me, it's just a visual thing, but I find it quite useful. But can we also now bring up a Nasdaq or S&P 500 index?
Yep. I can't remember the code. What is it?
US.graph dot SPX.
SPX. Now, you'll want to see it on that other one, won't you?
Yes.
Well, I'll go back here and do it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have said on that one. And indexes are different to stocks. My feeling is that if an index is probably 5 to 10% above the 50-period moving average, that's a nice steady uptrend. But you can see here on the right hand side that we're now up around 12 or 15. The Nasdaq's up around 17 or 18% away from the 50-period moving average, and to me, I won't say it's risk, but it's time for caution, I think, because it's very extended, and the same with the Dow Jones and the same with the Nasdaq. But I just look at that as a sort of a what's the word, a reference point, but I also tend to use it for stocks. And if you want to look at a couple of stocks that I think demonstrate this, can we put in, for example, S32, Robert?
Yep.
Now, this is a good example of a stock that's been in decline for a while, and I haven't bought it, but it's certainly very much on my radar, and it's poked its head up, and that to me is definitely on my watch list. That's a good example of a stock that I think's got potential to go higher. If you then looked at what am I going to look at? We can look at Domino DMP, Domino Pizzas. That to me is signalling that caution. It hasn't hit the 50-period moving average, but to me, it's time to reassess your position. And probably if you put in KGN, that's a classic case of one that I think you do need to. If you've got the stock, it's right on the 50. As you can see, that at its peak it was about over 100% above the 50-period moving average. It's also, I find, useful in stocks that I think are trending sideways, going nowhere. And one you could put in is Nearmap, NEA. All right, you're checking the calculations, aren't you?
And demonstrating to those who haven't used that percentage value tool how to use it.
Yeah.
What was the one you said?
Nearmaps, NEA. To me, this is a stock that's just trending sideways. I'm not interested in it. Going up and down a little bit. So we could look at another stock if you want to. A2M Milk is a classic stock that's out of favour again, and very much in favour for a long while. But to me, once it's crossed that 50-period moving average, it's out. Now, I don't know whether people find that useful, but anyway, I tend to use it, and it works for me. So I think you just got to go and play with it.
So, David, do you use it mostly to help with entry or exit?
Mainly with entry. Yeah. Exit I often look at it on a daily basis.
Okay, so can you just recap for us on the entry, your own criteria that helps you determine whether or not to enter?
Well, a good example is S32. It's on my radar. It's popped its head up this week. It's been in a long-term downtrend. You can see that it's been moving sideways. All of a sudden, it started to move, and I think there's probably some upside in that stock. And as I say, I haven't bought it, but I'll wait to see what happens by Friday, and I'll probably enter into that stock. But at this stage, I haven't quite made my mind up. But that's what I'm just simply using. To me, it's a reinforcement of. You can say, it's crossed the 50-period moving average, but to me, you can see that it's been from about March. It's been slowly grinding its way higher, and yet travelling mostly sideways. To me now, it's a possible buy, and You could probably also put in there Santos is another one that's moved, probably moved away a bit quicker. And once again, the same sort of thing. Another one you can put up, Robert, if you've got time, is Illumina, AWC, which is shown a very classic, technical double bottom.
Yep.
And you can now see that it's just starting to poke up. Once again, it's on my radar. I will probably make a decision this week or next week. Yep. So I don't know whether that's useful, but anyway, that's I find it graphically quite useful.
All right, David, thank you. Are there any questions from anyone about the Disparity Index? What I'll do here, just to wrap up, is point out to everyone and those who aren't aware, if you have a look at the properties for an indicator like this one and click on the last tab, Formula, in there is not only the formula for this indicator, but for all of the indicators that are standard in BullCharts, there should be this bit of text included. And for custom indicators that our users have created and shared, hopefully they do the same thing. There should be a citation statement in there that says where this information has come from. And in this case, Steve Nison, and that Beyond Candlesticks, I think, is a reference to his textbook. And there's a description. And it's easy to add that into your own custom indicator. If you know enough about putting indicators together, you'll be able to do that too. Now, if we do a quick Google search, and maybe I won't do it now, if we do a quick Google search for Steve Nison and Beyond Candlesticks, and then search for Disparity Index, we might readily see more information about it. So if you might be interested in that, go and do some Googling or some dogpiling or some, what's the other famous search engine these days? I can't remember now. There's a couple of famous ones that are trying to take over from Google. Have a look. Are there any other indicators that people want to have a chat about? Dean asked about hull moving average. Now, one of my favorites is Guppy's moving averages. I've got that up on my toolbar here. Guppy moving average. And I find that useful on a weekly candle chart, except that I set the moving averages to be daily so that they respond a lot quicker. Now, Dean was asking about hull moving averages. I think the hull, let's just have a look here, all indicators, go down to H for hull. I think we've got hull multiple moving averages here too. Next, put that on the price, yes. Now, I'll just temporarily, I'll go to my layer manager and hide the Guppy moving averages. There's the hull ones on a weekly chart. And for those who know how to interpret them, and the key thing about the Guppy multiple moving averages, it looks as though that's similar to Alan Hull's. The key thing about reading this, for those of you who have read Darryl Guppy's book, Trend Trading, it's explained in there and probably in one or two of his other books. Darryl Guppy talks about the group of 6 red moving averages as being representative of the opinions or the views of the longer term investors in the market, whereas the 6 blue moving averages represent the views of the shorter term traders. And you can see from the drop down there that the 6 blue ones are EMA 3, 5, 8, 10, 12 and 15. The inside one is 15. And then the 6 red ones are 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 and 60. And what Darryl has said to us we should look for a good healthy uptrend, and I'll find one here, and here's a good healthy uptrend here. What he says to look for is the group of red averages roughly parallel hardly moving but rising across the chart, while the blue ones gently compress and expand with a gap between the two groups. And for as long as those conditions are met, Daryl says we've got the definition of a fairly healthy uptrend. And once some of those conditions are no longer met, like here where the blues have started to penetrate the group of reds and the reds flatten and turn down, that's a severe change, a severe turning point. And what we could do, I don't think Daryl gives us any trading signals for this, but what we could do at this point is say, okay, well here the clear healthy uptrend seems to have ended. So if we were in, we might take that as a signal to exit. We might take it in conjunction with another signal that maybe we should exit. So that's a place to rethink what we're doing. That's the Guppy multiple moving average. And as I said, the Hull ones are likely to be similar. Does anyone have any comment about Guppy's multiple moving average or Alan Hull's version?
Robert, can you show us how you set the daily on the weekly? You go into properties, is it, or how do you set your moving averages to be daily on a weekly chart? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like on the index. And what I've got here is I've got the index of weekly candles, and the Guppy MMA is daily. Now, it's maybe to demonstrate the difference, I should do two of these side by side. That's one. Let's do another one. Sorry, new All Ords. Do that over here, and we'll have a look at the difference. I'll make that a weekly. And I'll put Guppy's multiple moving average on that. I'm hoping it's apparent. Otherwise, yeah.
Oh no, very apparent.
So if you look at the reds, the group of reds, you can see here that the dip in the reds is not significant, or it is, but here it's a lot sharper. On this one, it follows the price a lot closer, because on here, the GMMA is on the daily price, not weekly. Okay, David, so you asked how we do that. And every time I do this, I've got to stop and think, because it's not straightforward. And I think the way to do it is, and if I get this wrong, I'm going to have to edit out the video, won't I? I think you start with a daily chart. And
put the daily in, and then fix it as a daily. And then make it into a weekly chart. Yeah, righto. Yeah.
And then from the menu, use insert security and insert the same security, but on a weekly, and make that candles. Location on the price, color, scale, merge with scale. So there's weekly candles. And then you've got to go to the layer manager and hide the daily candles.
Righto.
And then, of course,
yeah, righto. You give me a bit of a lead, righto. I'll have a play around.
If you don't like the colour, you can change it. Let's change the colour back to black, make it look standard. Yeah. And make it thicker. And you'll see in the pane title bar up here in the top left, I've got XAOD for daily. I've also got XAOW for weekly. So they're both shown up there because the two of them are on the chart. It's just that one of them is currently hidden. And I actually find it useful to also look at the daily candles when I'm deciding whether or not to buy a stock. Now, that might look a bit messy. Don't forget, we can move one of these in front of or behind the others. So the weekly candles, I can choose the weekly candles, change the order and bring them to the front. those should hide the daily ones. Maybe I've got to change the daily ones, change them, send them to the back. What's happened is with the weekly ones, I've got some transparency applied. Got to take away the transparency. So there's the weekly ones. They're now in front. If I send them to the back, or to send it back, I can see them. And I've also got the Guppy multiple moving average. Let's send that to the back as well, or to send it back. So there are ways to manipulate all of this so that there's more clarity. And if you can't see the daily candles in amongst the black ones, like I did before with the black ones, change the degree of transparency or opaqueness. Maybe one more. So there's all of those things you can do with bull charts. David, hopefully that answered the question without...
Yeah, no, that's given me a bit of a lead. I'll play with that. Well done.
Yeah.
Thanks.
For anyone who missed it, insert security. And you can put the same security on top of itself with different time frame, or one can be a line chart and the other can be candles or bars. You can do all of those sorts of things. Paul said use a EMA of the OBV, either 21 day or 34 days, confirmation for increasing volume with breakouts and MACD crossing. So we're looking at price change with volume change. The formula for this indicator is in the BullCharts forum. The BullCharts discussion forum has some discussion on that. So that sounds like a custom indicator someone's written to do moving average on OBV. That could be useful. I'll just make a note in my book to go look for it later. MA on OBV. See BullCharts forum. Paul, thanks for that. What else have we got? Dennis has said, for those interested in the work of Nison and this index as discussed this evening. Dennis, thanks for the quick Google search in the chat box for those who want to have a look. Dennis has got a link to Investopedia with a discussion about the Disparity Index. Well done. Next indicator, I think it's time we moved on, 9:15. Maybe momentum and moving average of momentum. Let's start a new chart. I like momentum and moving average of momentum. Okay, so this chart we're looking at is a line chart above of the index, weekly chart. Top left corner says XAOW. Many years ago, and some of you, if you're still running an old version of BullCharts, up in the top left it might say weekly or daily instead of just one letter. For the last few versions, that's been compacted to just the first letter, D, W, M, Y, Q, whatever. And that was in response to a user request, someone who had a lot of information across that line, that pane title bar, and they were running out of space. So that was one way to save a few characters, to actually put that letter in instead. Weekly chart of the All Ords. In the bottom half here, bottom pane, I've got momentum. Momentum is the jagged line. I won't say it's the green one, it's the jagged line. They're both green. The smooth line is a moving average of momentum. Now, it took me a while to find moving average of momentum. It's actually called momentum smoothed. So when you go to apply that indicator to the chart, you will be able to find it. If you go to all indicators, go down to the M's and go momentum smoothed, there it is there. And you can change this expression so that it's based on either open, high, low, close, or volume, value, or trades, usually close, the time periods and the smoothing periods, and then the method, similar to moving average. So that's called momentum smoothed. Now, on this particular momentum and its MA, you can see here I'm using 14 periods on this weekly chart and 14 for the smooth momentum. For many years I used 28 because at an ATAA conference about, I don't know, 12 or 15 years, 10 years ago, whatever it was, Jake Bernstein was one of the speakers, and he talked about how he had done some research and found that 28 bars, 28 periods was his ideal. Now, maybe that's the case on a daily chart, I'm not sure. I tried it for years and I was never happy with it. So I've gone back to 14, and 14 is as good as any. The one thing that I do look for is, and maybe what I'll do for now is hide the smooth momentum and maybe go back a few years, because back in here, just before the GFC, there's very interesting happening. Now this is September 2007, September, October, November. Don't forget our market peaked in October, November 2007. I'll just draw this ellipse around the peaks. It peaked here and then fell into the bear market that ended up becoming the GFC. Now, in hindsight, this is easy to pick now. I actually spotted it at the time and moved my super. And what I did was this. I had a look at the peaks. These peaks up here on the index, and I noticed this peak in early December was lower than the previous one, but when you look at momentum and got into December, down here, from then onwards, there were lower peaks, and it got lower again. Now that's divergence. It's clearly divergence, and that's one of the things I look for when I'm doing my analysis on either the index or on any of the stocks I'm about to invest in. And bearish divergence is one thing the experts say we need to be on the lookout for and can give us an early warning sign. Now this is a weekly chart. If we go to daily, it might be even clearer. But I like momentum and looking for peaks and troughs, and because ideally what happens is the index or the stock and momentum should together swing up and down together and make new peaks and new troughs together as they go up or come down. They should not diverge as it has done here. Should not diverge. That's a warning. Yeah. It was after that that the index fell. In case anyone has not been around long enough to remember, the index fell 54% over 73 weeks. Now, when a bear market strikes, don't forget, it might not all be over within the first few weeks. 26 weeks, 50 weeks, this one took 73. Momentum and smoothed momentum. The other thing to look for when you're looking at smooth momentum is whether it's rising or falling. And that can give you an indication as well. An indication as to what's happening with momentum itself. If smooth momentum is falling, it's moving average. It's a good indication that momentum itself is falling. And don't forget, if anyone missed the action on the index, if you're looking at an index chart and you think that the volume bars are generally around 1 billion daily, plus or minus a bit for the All Ords, and if you notice that there's a volume bar down here at a very low value for Monday the 16th, and you don't know why, don't complain about the data. The data is correct. That was the day that the ASX stopped trading before 10:30 a.m. Less than 30 minutes of trading. And most of you might already have realized that and seen that in the news and read about it. Otherwise, volume tends to be around about 1 billion every day on the All Ords. Now, Leonie is asking two questions. How to put a ribbon pane on? First of all, Leonie will do the second part of the question. To insert a ribbon, I can insert indicator. Now, when I insert an indicator, I use Control-I on the keyboard, but it's the same as insert indicator, and up here it tells you Control-I is the shortcut. Then if you go to the category, you can choose all ribbons and have a look at which ribbons are available. Now those first few are not standard ribbons. They're from Phil's presentation a few weeks ago. We can have a look at something like maybe Guppy's GMMA ribbon. I think that's a standard one. Next, there's information about the style, advanced formula. Click OK. Now that ribbon has been applied across the bottom of the chart. It's just an indicator like all the other indicators, except it's a ribbon style of indicator. And don't forget, for the last couple of years, there's been an extra setting that we can change for these ribbons to make it wider. If you wanted to make it wider, you can go to Tools Preferences, and somewhere in the Preferences dialog, it might be under Indicators, Fix Ribbon Pane Height. That's a new feature the last couple of years. Currently set to 18. I could make that a bigger number, like 36, and that ribbon pane should become a lot wider. So if you like wider ribbons, you can do that. I like mine at 18. Not sure if that's the standard default value, but that's where mine is at the moment. So that's how you apply a ribbon. If you wanted to test if a particular condition in an indicator is true or false, then you need to make sure that you've got the indicator. And in this particular case, it was a custom indicator. So if you don't have the custom indicator, you won't be able to test for it. Now, I'm not sure if I've got that indicator on my system here. What's the indicator called?
Oh, I think it's just called the good question. I'll have a look myself.
Was it MA ribbon?
Yeah, be under moving average ribbon. I'd call it. I'd probably put I generally I've copied Des Bleakley, and I think it's. I call it a moving average ribbon EMA DB 830 or something along those lines.
Yeah, I don't think I've got that one.
No, you're probably not.
But I've got one here called MA pair EMA 1530.
Yeah. I tend to use that to colour in between the Guppy multiple moving averages.
Yeah.
Because his short ones finish at 15 and his long ones start at 30. That's all.
Yeah. The other thing that everyone needs to be mindful of, if you wanted to test if a condition is true and it's an indicator you're looking at, then you might need to use an indicator signal.
True.
Now, one of the things that we can do, and what I'll do, is I'll insert MACD here. MACD. I'll insert MACD. MACD is down the bottom here. And how about that? That's very handy. What a lot of people like to do is run a scan and look for this condition in the last few days or weeks. And this condition that I've spotted here is MACD has crossed above when it's below zero. That's considered a very bullish indication after a downtrend. And if you wanted to search for that sort of thing, this is a good example of how to set up the scan. You open up the scan criteria, and new criteria, what we're looking for is an indicator signal, not an indicator or price, it's indicator signal. And in the drop down here, choose MACD. And down the bottom here, we've already got the text that tells us what we've selected up here. MACD above is true. Now, somehow I managed to choose that from MACD. Parameters above or below. So that adds that condition to a scan. MACD above is true, and if we want it within the last few bars, make it any time in the last 10 bars or whatever, and set up and run the scan. So in the scan, it's easy enough to search for indicators doing something, or values, or one indicator above another, or a condition like MACD crossing above. So hopefully that answers all of the question related to that. Okay, I wonder if we should look at RSI, because that's one thing that some people look at. We'll make that our last one. If there are no other suggestions, we'll have a look at RSI. I overlooked RSI for many years and only recently rediscovered it. It was in an ATA webinar about 3 or 4 months ago, and I can't remember which guest speaker it was. Someone said it's so useful. Now, don't forget, if you've got a couple of indicators on a chart and or volume, after a while it gets to be a bit cramped vertically. You can stack the indicators, put one behind the other. So right now I can see volume bars at the bottom. There's a tab in the bottom left corner here, RSI. There's the RSI indicator and the volume tab. To stack indicators like that, all you've got to do is go to View and Stack Indicators, or use the function key F3. F3 will stack and unstack. So RSI. Don't forget RSI is an oscillator. You can drag the scale, vertical scale like this. By default, the 30 and 70 horizontal lines are marked. What you can do is, if you want, you can add your own line there, horizontal lines, add 50 across the middle, and I'll make it a dotted line. So I know it's across the middle, because that's useful. And some of the experts say that RSI is useful because if the RSI is above 70, then be careful, that's indicating overbought territory. The RSI can drop below 70 and can move above it again, as it has done here, and can move up and down above 70, and that's okay. It's not necessarily a signal to exit. It's not. But if the RSI falls below 70 and keeps falling, then that is the time to be out. So that happened here. Now, this is a daily chart. What we're looking for, though, ideally, is for, here's a good example here, RSI rising above 30 and heading towards that 50 line and continuing up towards 70. So that's a good example of a nice uptrend in place and possibly good purchasing. Good time to get in. So have a look at RSI, do some research to find out more information about how it can be used and what to look for. Kevin has said to everyone, RSI good. Kevin, good, thank you. Yes, I've found it useful to look at that in conjunction with a couple of other things.
Robert?
Yes, Alec?
The question that Phil asked regarding the disparity index and the averages and using standard deviations,
yeah,
I came across, I think the answer to that already exists. Something I was looking at last week. If you have a look at a thing called a Z-score indicator.
In BullCharts?
No, it's not in BullCharts, but
okay.
I have done a coding from it. There was an article in Stocks and Commodities some while back, and basically the Z-score for a data item measures the distance in standard deviations and the direction of the item from its mean. So I think basically the process is already available.
Okay.
I could probably copy this article and send it through to you, and you can pass it on. But it does, I think, exactly what Phil's talking about.
Yeah, Alec, please send it to me. I'll include it in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Z-score.
Yeah, you can, if you Google it, you'll find it as well.
Okay. Very good, thanks. Okay, let's move on in the agenda. The last couple of items we'll get through very quickly and we'll wrap up and end. Agenda item number 4, BullCharts tips, exploring key BullCharts features. Now version number 515.1.15. Over the last several months, Brendan and the developers have been working on getting 5.1 tweaked, getting some little glitches out of it. Don't forget, anyone running a very high resolution screen monitor, especially on an Apple Mac, running BullCharts in a Windows emulator on an Apple Mac, would have had trouble with the earlier versions of BullCharts. And that's what version 5, the key thing about version 5 was to address that, and because that needed a major rewrite of many components of the BullCharts software. 5.1 was a further step, and what Brendan's done is done more tweaks, and based on user input, now crept up to version 5.1.15. I've got that as of now. How long has it been around for? If I go to my help and have a look at about BullCharts, it tells me 13th of November. That's been out for about 2 weeks, nearly 2 weeks. And some of you might already be running it. I know there are a number of users who offer to be guinea pigs, if you like, or beta testers and test out versions, or have little glitches and see if the latest fix has addressed it. Anyone running version 5.1 point something, 4 onwards, I think, it's probably a good version, no need to change. But if you're running anything older, 5.0 or 4, then it might be worth upgrading. And don't forget to upgrade. All you've got to do is go to, where's my browser? Here it is. If you go to the BullCharts website, and down in the bottom left corner, updates and downloads, click on the link there, and then when prompted, put in your BullCharts data plan login name. My username is, I think that's my username, and 6 digits. Oh, not right. Something's not right there. There we go. And then scroll down this page. Yeah, there's BullCharts 5.1. And there's the link to download 5.1 setup, including a database. What's in BullCharts version 5.1? So it's easy enough to download from there. Okay, I think we're out of things to talk about. If that's the case, we've run a little bit over time, as we often do. Thank you, everyone, for your interest tonight and participation, and the input from people. That's always very good.